Hello my dear friends, my name is Victor Fursov and I am an entomologist, and I am studying small parasitic wasps, cultured wasps. And this story is devoted to the basics of entomological study, collecting, and more precisely to expeditions and excursions. Well, when you are an entomologist, amateur or scientist, professional entomologist, you need to collect material. Material you deposit in boxes. This is collection. And of course, to collect material, you have to go somewhere to find this material. Sometimes it's interesting, sometimes it's difficult, but always it's awesome. It's very useful, because your material is most valuable, because you collect it by your hands, and it's your input to the collection. And actually this collection can be stored in scientific institute, university, college or museum for dozens of years, maybe for hundreds, like a collection of Linné in Sweden. Well, of course, you do like to publish your results in scientific journals like this, Entomological Science, or maybe you want to publish some nice colorful books like Butterflies of the World. And to collect it, you have to go to expedition, because when you are sitting at home or at your laboratory and study something, maybe you can study literature, maybe you can watch some movies or even some recorded behavior of animals, but to collect specimens of different insects, different animals or arthropods, you have to go to expedition. And when do you start it? Definitely you start it in your college or in your university. Yes, I do remember this time in my university. This was a wonderful time. I spent all evenings at the Department of Entomology, and actually summertime was the most interesting because we had biological training, and of course we had training in collecting your material for your diploma. Our prominent scientist, professor of university, Dr. Oleg Negrobov, he is working now in Voronezh State University, and he led all his students to participate in different expeditions to collect material, to collect small diptera, small flies. And for that, students visited different areas all around the European part and Asian part of a former USSR. Students of Voronezh State University visited Tajikistan, Dr. Shamsev. He is now in St. Petersburg. He visited Tajikistan and Sakhalin. And some others, they visited Altai, Yamal, Kuril Islands and Far East of Russia. And they collected different, very valuable material because they were enthusiasts. And they were students, they were young and collected it with a great courage and interest and enthusiasm. And of course, they did their input to the scientific collection of laboratory. And later, I met prominent scientist Dr. Vladimir Trupitsin from St. Petersburg. And I do remember when we were in Ramon in Plant Protection Institute, and he showed me how to collect cultured wasp using aspirator. Yes, I was young, and actually it was quite interesting, because when you have a teacher will show you how to collect your arthropods, your invertebrates, animals, insects, and it's most valuable knowledge you can receive from your professor, from your teacher, to see it on your own eyes and to learn it just yourself. Well, when I was in a postgraduate course in Kyiv and Institute of Zoology, well, my first expedition was quite many years ago, but it was with paleontology department. Very interesting, because paleontologists were led by Dr. Leonid Rekovets. He is now working in Poland. He was leader of expedition. They collected some small, very tiny bones of different vertebrate animals in the soil, and I collected my insects all around in different grasslands and different places around the river in Khmelnytsky region in Ukraine. And of course, the time of postgraduate course, which is given to write a PhD, was very fruitful and useful, because you needed to collect material for your research. When you have limited time for PhD, 3-4 years, you have to collect your material as well, especially if you are scientists who study taxonomy. Taxonomy, diversity, distribution of insects, of course, behavior. That's why I visited different regions of Ukraine. With my colleagues, I visited Crimea, Donetsk region, Kherson region. I visited also Lugansk region and also Belgorod region near in Russia. And even I participated in a very long distance expedition to Far East, yes, to Vladivostok. This was in a quite long time ago, still in the USSR time. It was enough cheap. In this time I spent 400 rubles for both flights, both ways, and for life during 1 month. Well, but this was invaluable experience how to collect insects, how to evaluate different landscapes regarding biodiversity of your particular group of insects, or vertebrates or invertebrates, animals, because you can find them yourself or with help of your colleagues, friends, professors, and you can bring this material to study it at the laboratory. And later, I remember my another expeditions were quite interesting with different colleagues. For example, Dr. Ivo Tashevsky came here to Ukraine from Serbia, and we collected interesting material of entomophagous insects and insects, phytophagous insects, which were developing on weeds in Donetsk region. Then another interesting scientist came to Ukraine, Mike Söderlund from Sweden. He came just driving on a car from Sweden to Poland and then to Ukraine. We crossed the whole Ukraine from east to west and from south to north, and we collected and studied some material in different places in southern regions of Ukraine. Well, of course, expeditions were quite interesting, and now it's not so easy to go far away for collecting. For example, do you remember this prominent architecture Gorodetsky? He built different very famous buildings in Ukraine and especially in Kiev, but he also wrote the book with title My Travels in Africa. Well, he was a hunter. He visited different places in Africa. He was a famous hunter and even wrote his reminiscences about his traveling in Africa. But in this time he was pretty rich. He had his huge building in Kyiv, and he was able to be such a famous hunter, and he brought many material to Kiev as well. But now some people also enjoy safari. Some businessmen will come into safari for hunting and to enjoy natural landscapes somewhere in Africa and other places. But for scientists who study different groups of animals, now it's not so easy, of course. And how we can do it? There are different ways. Different, which are not easy, by the way. First of all, scientists could communicate with another scientist abroad. If you are just in Ukraine or in Russia, and you can speak English, of course, or German language or French language, so you are most welcome to communicate with other people in other countries and just ask them, are you going to expedition? Are you studying some material from different places like Asia, like Malaysia, Thailand, or others? Maybe we can go together and study it, and you can collect it and study it at laboratory, because, you know, this kingdom of animals like insects, 1 million of species is a huge, it's enough for 1, 2, 3, for hundreds of specialists to study, to investigate taxonomy, biology, peculiarities of behavior. So if you share your knowledge and your enthusiasm and efforts, your skills to participate in such expedition with your colleagues abroad, yeah, you will be very welcome. And actually there are some companies, commercial companies in West, which are managing kind of expeditions abroad. Of course, most of them, you should pay for them. Of course, some students from universities, some scientists from Western universities, they participate. But of course, they paid either from their own money or they paid from the grants of their universities, or they can apply for grant to somewhere like a nature conservation or natural heritage in Britain. So they can get a grant and cut the cost of visiting maybe to Brazil, Papua New Guinea, or just Madagascar. That's wonderful. In some other countries, like Russian-speaking countries, Russia and Ukraine, for present moment, it's a complicated story. Fortunately, Russia has some biological stations in distant areas, like in Ethiopia and in Vietnam. Zoological Institute has a station in Vietnam. Zoologists will study vertebrates and invertebrates in Vietnam, and also they study parasitology of different animals in Ethiopia. But for others it's difficult. Ukrainian zoologists and even some entomologists, they visited even Antarctica. Well, they studied Klembo, for instance, and also they studied some invertebrates, like Dr. Rutevsky, brothers Rutevskys. They visited Antarctica, they collected leeches which are living in this deep water of Antarctica. This expedition, absolutely marvelous and invaluable and very important for zoology in Ukraine. Of course, this was supported by Antarctican expedition of Ukraine. But if you can find some of your colleagues abroad who can help you and you can join their expedition to go abroad, you're most welcome. If you want to go to Africa, Brazil, Asia, you can go. Just you need to search for these funds. How to get them? That's not easy story. You have to spend certain amount of time to apply for grants, to write applications. Maybe the easiest way, not the easiest, but one of the ways, you can visit it. Some museums, some zoological organizations abroad, like in America or in Europe or others, different places. And you can just study some material in these organizations. You can study them morphological peculiarities, you can study taxonomy, and then maybe these organizations can help you also to organize expeditions or to participate in another group, to join other team, and you can visit some distant areas. And of course, you know, there are some rich people in the world. So some people, they like to look to collection, to enjoy insects on pins, on walls. They enjoy butterflies, for instance, they enjoy Coleoptera, beetles, maybe some Homoptera cicadas in their private collection. Definitely, these people, they have just their commercial collections. They're nice, they're beautiful. But nevertheless, some of these people, they can help to scientists to conduct such scientific investigation and expedition. And even maybe some people who are living now in America, in Canada, in Australia, or in other distant areas of the world, they can help Ukrainian or Russian scientists to visit some distant areas to study entomology, zoology, ornithology, or you can help us to manage this expedition and publish new species descriptions, description of biology, description of behavior in research, of our research in scientific journals, with acknowledgements to our sponsors. You are most welcome to communicate with us. We need you, and you need us, because you can name in your honor different new species of insects, or maybe one wonderful, interesting butterfly from Africa will be named in honor of your name. why not? Or even a just small tiny insect will be named in honor of your name, but it will be forever, so it will be published in a scientific journal, and it will be fun even for your colleagues and your friends. You can say, I have a very funny beetle with my name, and you can enjoy it yourself, together with us, with scientists. So, if you're in America, in Canada, in New Zealand, in Australia, in Asia, and you can help to scientists in Ukraine to study entomology and zoology in tropical areas, you're most welcome to communicate with us. For example, some people did it already. I know that one of our friends and colleagues in Shevchenko University received some help from person who was graduated in the Kyiv University and now living in America. But he was very kind. He sent such kind of grant to help with equipment, in expedition equipment, like light trap for butterflies. It was pretty costly, but it's portable light trap, and it's useful for entomologists. $3,000 for light trap. It's a nice grant for researchers, because they can collect material, they can study it, they can maintain very valuable collection of insects, and they can name these new species, because many species of insects and other invertebrates, they're still unknown, and they need our efforts. Of course, in Ukraine, people making different publications, and this publication is invaluable, Fauna of Ukraine. Many scientists in Ukraine, entomologists and zoologists, participated in publication of these issues, of this series. Some people participated in this identification keys of forest of Russia, and this is a great idea to continue these publications in Ukraine. But these publications also are urgently needed in some expeditions, in some grants to support scientific research travelings in Ukraine. But some scientists, they have brought knowledge about insects all around the world. They can visit it also world, different distant areas. From Ukraine, it's easy to come now to any place of the world, but it needs some efforts, it needs enthusiasm, money, funds, and your interest. Join us in your interest, communicate with us, and I hope this story about expeditions was interesting for you. And see you soon on YouTube, and good luck. See you soon.